Michael and I were just saying we did certainly lose a bit of steam ahead of the close today. What did you put that down to?
Well, it was a bit of a bipolar response, I think, to the FOMC meeting. In the US overnight, we saw the markets up by 1.2%, despite a more hawkish stance by the Federal Reserve, indicating that perhaps that interest rates could rise this year in December. But in markets around the region, it wasn't just Australia. We saw that positive momentum that stemmed from the US stock market really fading, and Asian markets finishing in the red, the Australian market down by 1.3%. All sectors were in the red with one exception, and that was the utility space, but it was also options expiry for stock, and that tends to lead to volatility and high volumes of the market, both of what we saw on the Australian share market today, and plenty of news to observe, from Woolworths profit warning to Blackmores reaching another all-time record high, to Newcrest Mining losing 7.8% to the Telstra AGM and the ANZ result. It was a very, very busy day. So high volumes, lots going on, but all up, I think we were sold off with the rest of the region.
Yeah, it sounds...
Although there are some key technical levels for Woolworths coming up, I guess the big problem here is once you see a profit downgrade, it usually does tend to come in threes, and the problems at Woolworths do look like they're going to take a while to turn around. Not only that, the fact that Woolworths is in so much trouble doesn't bode well for the sector, because it means there's going to be high discounting, and we saw that reflected in the share prices of the whole consumer staples area today. Not only was Woolworths down by almost 10%, but we saw Wesfarmers, where Coles has been doing extremely well, down by 4.3%, and Metcash as well, down by more than 10%. So the growth is really sold off, because if Wool is in trouble, they're likely to try and be more competitive, discount even further. We're likely to see further food deflation coming into the picture, and food deflation is already the worst that we've seen it in around about 2 years. So Wool is coming out with a bad announcement today in terms of first quarter sales, in terms of that profit downgrade, but really it impacted all the grocers.
Yeah, and we'll go back to you, Julia. I want to ask you about Blackmores today. My goodness, can this stock perform? If you take a look at it, it moved above the $200 mark today. Also announced a bit of a tie-up with Bega. Just explain the road to above $200. How has this company managed this?
Let me just bring up one chart, and that's Blackmores share price over the last 2 years. If I can bring up this chart, the stock 2 years ago was around about the $20 level, and you can see that today it hit above $200. Now, buying it today, it is an expensive stock, but there's no problem with buying an expensive stock. It just means you're paying a premium now for future growth, and you want that future growth to materialize, especially when you're paying that premium on the market. Now, the fact that they've come out today and announced a partnership with Bega Cheese in the area of infant formula, I think the market's a little bit clearer on where that premium growth might come from in the future. Infant formula in Australia and New Zealand has just been one of those stellar growth areas. I mean, A2 Milk, in its full year result, we saw milk sales up by 10%, but its infant formula sales were actually up by 650%. Now, Bellamy's, which is a Tasmanian company which does organic infant formula as well as food, it doesn't separate which part of it's the infant formula, but overall sales was up 150% in its last result. I actually went onto the Bellamy's website today because I've got a little baby girl and she loves Bellamy's, but I haven't been able to get it for the last 3 months, and on the site it was sold out. So I gave them a call and they said, you know, they're still producing as much baby formula as they ever have and selling it into Australia. It's just being snapped up.
Wow.
So I went onto eBay. It looks like there's a black market for baby formula here in Australia. It's not even Chinese sellers, it's Australian sellers. So the formula I bought on Bellamy's website, they release it looks like once a day. I can sell it on eBay for a premium for at least $5 a tin. So it looks like I've made some money today. But of course, the other thing with Bellamy's is that it processes its formula through Bega's facilities, the Tatura facilities. And of course, with Bega now ramping up its own facilities, I guess there's a question mark on whether it can continue to ramp up supply very quickly, given that Bega is going to be launching its own brand with Blackmores. So Bellamy's share price was actually down by around about 7%, I think,
Okay.
and we saw Bega Cheese up by 15% and Blackmores up by 13%.
Maybe to go on to ANZ and go back to you, Julia, on this one. This after we got NAB's result yesterday, we saw ANZ today, and it's also the last result for Mike Smith, who spoke to Helen Daly today and said he wants to be remembered for his super regional strategy. But do you think they're starting to push away from that a bit now?
I guess in the medium to long term, this is where the growth is likely to come from. However, the short to medium term, this is where the pain is coming from, and this results really reflected that. The cash numbers pretty much in line with expectations. The market was expecting 7.28, it came in at $7.22 billion, so not a huge miss. The dividend unchanged, but if you have a look at the Australia Pacific, Europe, Americas, that does make up 25% of group revenue now. And if we have a look at that particular area and revenue from that area, in the second half we did see a significant slowdown there, so cash profit down by 34% from that particular area. So the Asia strategy is providing a bit of a short-term hurdle for ANZ, and of course the incoming CEO having more domestic experience, it does look like there's going to be more of a domestic focus in the short term. However, the medium to long term, it does look like they're still focused in on that Asia strategy.